Any youngster who has put a basketball through a hoop has visions of becoming one of the NBA greats, to be just like Magic, or Larry, or Michael. But so often, dreams are left at the playground. Not so for this group of athletes. College Player of the Year, UNLV's Larry Johnson, on the verge of seeing his NBA dream come true. The same goes for All-American and Big East Player of the Year, Billy Owens, who started for the Orangemen in every game of his career. The next great NBA point guard just might be Georgia Tech's Kenny Anderson, who led the Jackets in scoring, assists, and steals. Clearly, the most dominating center in this year's collegiate crop is Georgetown's defensive force, Dikembe Mutombo, who also shot 64% from the field in his career. But who will be the #1 pick and follow in the footsteps of some of the former great top choices? It's the quest for the ultimate prize of the NBA draft, live from the home of the NBA, New York City.
There's Luke Longley. Luke Longley out of Australia, as 15 of the top players arrived at Madison Square Garden, and they will be here, and we will be meeting them and interviewing them as they are selected tonight to begin what they hope will be spectacular careers in the NBA, and there will be some rich young men by 11:30 tonight. I'm Bob Neal. It's our 7th consecutive year to cover the NBA draft, and working with me tonight are our 2 analysts for TNT NBA telecast, both of whom have had extensive experience with the draft. Doug Collins, of course, as former coach of the Chicago Bulls and the #1 choice himself in the NBA draft in 1973, and of course Hubie Brown, who's participated in this process many times as a stellar head coach in the NBA. Hubie, your assessment early on here of the talent pool in groups of big men, forwards, point guards?
Well, every place that you read or you talk to general managers, people in the business, everyone is telling you how top heavy we are up front. 5 possible centers in the first round, maybe 7 power forwards, even 6 small forwards could possibly make it. But then, on the other hand, we could see 5 guards go in the top 12 picks in this draft.
Surprise like last year, we had some guards go earlier than we thought. Doug Collins?
Well, Bob, I think always, every year you go into the draft and there's always this trade talk. You know, this guy's going to be traded, that guy's going to be traded. When you get down to it, salary cap restrictions so limit what a team can do and a general manager and owner can do with a ball club. 6 teams are under the salary cap right now, 4 expansion teams, Denver and Washington, so you've not seen a lot of trades. I would not be surprised as the draft goes along, maybe have some contingency trades whereby if a team has a guy available at that particular pick, maybe a trade is made during the draft. But with the salary cap restrictions and it not going up until August 1st, it really ties the hands of the movement of the players.
Well, speaking of tying the hands, everybody's talking about Charlotte. They'll be the #1 pick. And at the location for the Charlotte representatives, our colleague, reporter Craig Sager.
Well, thank you, Bob. These are the bios of the players available in this year's draft. 8,000 of them in all. If you want another David Robinson, there is one at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. If you want a miniature Larry Bird, take his brother Eddie from Indiana State. But Charlotte's interest focuses on 4 players, although it also varies. The owner, George Shinn, is a fan of Kenny Anderson. The coach, Gene Littles, likes the versatility of Billy Owens. The general manager, Alan Bristow, wants the toughness of Larry Johnson. While in a newspaper poll, the fans seem to favor Dikembe Mutombo. So anyway, whatever happens, there's also a 5th option, and that could be trading the pick. Is that rhetoric or substance? We hear from Alan Bristow that the decision was reached this past weekend, and we'll have the announcement in a few moments. Bob?
Thank you, Craig. You see, the fans at the Charlotte Coliseum are excited already as they're awaiting just about 5 minutes from now the selection of their team of the #1 player to be selected in the NBA draft. Another team that'll be very active in the first round are the Golden State Warriors. The head coach and general manager of the Golden State Warriors will be joining us from time to time on our telecast tonight, Don Nelson. Don, how about your assessment of the talent pool of the draft of 1991?
Well, it's actually been good as far as I'm concerned, because there's a lot of big players right around where we're going to pick, which is 16 and 17. But I'll tell you, it's a very interesting draft. And I'm not kidding when I tell you that you can talk about players being in the middle of the first round or all the way into the bottom or top of the second round.
Nelly, how much of an asset is it in this draft to have 3 picks, 16, 17, and 25?
Well, normally it's a big asset, but in this particular draft, because I think it's billed as not a real good draft, it's been more difficult to maneuver around. However, I think it's going to be a pretty deep draft, and I think there's going to be a lot of good NBA players come out of it.
Nelly, any time that you're a playoff team and you have 3 first-round picks, doesn't that put a lot of pressure on you as the general manager? How can they make your ball club, even if you should pick them?
Well, there's a lot of reasons for picking a lot of players in the first round. You'll be the first reason that we assembled 3 first-round picks was to try to make a deal and move up in the draft and really not have 3. But as it ended up, I couldn't make a deal in this draft with anybody. I couldn't even make a bad deal, which I was trying to do to move up. But as it ends up, I'm going to be drafting 3 players in the first round. Now, some of those players will be good players and fit right in with us. There'll be other players that we might not even be able to sign because of salary cap restrictions. And so it's going to be very interesting, really, to see how it all turns out. For the first time, I think the salary cap is going to come into play, not just with our team, but with several teams who are capped and are going to have to be dealing with one of these young draftable rookies and negotiate with their agents on a cap basis.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. To NBA fans here at Madison Square Garden in New York, to those gathered at our team draft headquarters across the country, to our national television audience on TNT, and to our audience on the NBA radio network, welcome to the 1991 NBA Draft. All of the NBA team representatives have been briefed on the draft procedures. So let's get started. The first selection in the 1991 NBA Draft will be made by the Charlotte Hornets.
So the welcome from Commissioner David Stern. You could hear in the background the nearly 8,000 fans. Now, the largest crowd we've had before has gone as high as nearly 3,000. So 2.5 times as many people are here. And as you can see, every seat that's been made available is filled. The NBA gave away free tickets. They had a one-day window for fans here in New York to get the tickets. The tickets were snapped up in a heartbeat and were actually, these are free tickets now, being scalped on the streets. There were people walking up and saying, $10 you can get into the NBA draft. Is the NBA popular? Well, there's your answer. You're looking at the team representatives from Charlotte now. They have less than 5 minutes to make the selection. They're the first team to select in the draft. Here are the top 5, the first 5, where all the excitement has been and where everybody is talking about Charlotte, New Jersey, Sacramento, Denver, Miami, and you might even add a number 6 in there too, because they say there are about 6 super players in the draft, and we'll talk about them in just a moment. Now, there's been a couple of transactions. Doug Collins mentioned there's not been a whole lot of activity in trades, but Atlanta did trade Doc Rivers to the Los Angeles Clippers, and the Atlanta Hawks moved up, and they get the number 9 selection here tonight, and also second-round picks in 93 and 94 by sending Doc Rivers to the LA Clippers. Now, the Clippers also made a trade today. They sent Winston Garland in a trade to Denver for the second-round pick in either 1996 or 97. So, Doug and Hubie, first of all, let's talk most significantly about Doc Rivers, a second-round choice himself, as a matter of fact, a leader point guard for the Hawks going to the Clippers. Hubie, your thoughts?
I like the move if I'm the Clippers. You're getting an experienced guard who for many years was a point guard, 6'4", can guard any guy in the league. Plus, he's going to give you leadership. He's been in the playoffs almost every year during his career. You match him up with Harper, you now can bring Gary Grant off of the bench, and it might relieve a lot of pressure on him, you know, to produce the big numbers that they thought when they drafted him on the first round. When you couple that with all of the talent up front, I really like that move. Now, I'm not so happy that Doc Rivers might not be too happy, but I think it was a great move for the Los Angeles Clippers.
And one comment, Doug, before we look at Charlotte's need, because they're about 2.5 minutes away from selecting now. Your comments on what Atlanta gets by moving up to number 9. They had been selecting at number 15.
Well, I think they have their eye on a particular player, maybe not a player that they're even going to keep, but maybe a player that can bring them something else in this draft, or maybe a player later on. So I think Atlanta wanted to move up, and I think there's a lot of pressure there to change that team around. And, and what they've done is they've started now with Doc Rivers, a lot of speculation even about Kevin Willis and whether Moses Malone will be back. So there's a lot of changing now going on in Atlanta.
All right, now let's look specifically at the Charlotte Hornets. What are their needs and what are their selection possibilities? First of all, this is the team. 26 wins last year. They're strong on the outside, shooting the ball from the perimeter. They obviously need a point guard. They're a very young team, but they don't have a lot of strength, a lot of tough guys up front. Therefore, Mutombo is one possibility. Larry Johnson a possibility. Billy Owens is a possibility. And Charlotte in just a moment is going to make that selection. And they've had obviously a need for somebody big up front.
Well, I think they're going to go Larry Johnson because I think that's who Alan Bristow has his heart set on. I think he feels like that he can come in and be a super player for them. And through all the speculation, I believe that that's Alan Bristow's man.
And I like the Marty Blake, the super scout for the NBA, said not much to say about Larry Johnson. He can score, he can run, he can play defense, and he is really a man and ready to play right away. Would you agree with that assessment?
Well, they need a man up front.
Man?
They need someone to help Treminsky on the boards. They were second from the bottom in rebounding, second from the bottom in shot block. Now, they're not going to get that, but they also need to improve their field goal percentage, and Larry Johnson will help them in that point.
We're going to find out right now. Here is the commissioner, David Stern.
With the first pick in the 1991 NBA draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Larry Johnson from University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
Larry Johnson from UNLV. He says these are his words about himself. I can score from 8 or 9 feet in. I can rebound. I can defend the post. A lot of people have talked about his size, listed at 6'7" throughout his collegiate career. Larry Johnson at the Chicago camp measured in his socks at 6'5.5". But remember, another player who went high in the draft, he wasn't number 1, but Charles Barkley, who was always 6'6". They measure him at 6'4.5", and Charles Barkley, of course, has played bigger than that. So here is Larry Johnson, the number 1 player selected in the draft of 1991.
You know, Bob, I think another thing that Larry Johnson brings to the Charlotte Hornets is this kid is a winner. And I don't think you can take away from the fact that wherever he's been, his teams have won, and they've won big. They've won an NCAA championship. And I think that when you take an expansion team, you need to bring a kid in with that kind of attitude.
You need some help up front. He's been able to rebound at the high school level, JUCO, and then at Vegas. And you just cannot believe that because of his great work ethic, that he's not going to get the job done, because you're talking about an individual with a 250-pound plus frame. You know that he can move people out.
6% body fat is the term I hear also. This man is chiseled out of granite. You see his 90-91 figures at UNLV, and we look at some of his play at UNLV. But now, this is history. Now we've got to see him perform in the big time.
But you know what? Also, too, I think you have to factor in here is he played on a team with great talent. So he's played in a team concept before, which I think is very, very important, because as you build an NBA team, the better the players get, you have to be a part of the whole program. And I also think that he's going to be able to do that very well.
Well, if they play him at the power position, because of his skills off the dribble and the fact that he can make the jump shot out, even out to 20 feet, he is going to create a problem for big players at that 6'10" to 7 foot in guarding him.
Now, talking about him personally, here is a young man from Dallas, Texas, who grew up, as someone said, it's as though the worst parts of the ghettos in America had moved to the neighborhood he grew up in. He had to battle his way out of there to go to college. Now his dream is about to come true. He's going to sign for millions of dollars and is going to have his opportunity in the NBA. So that personal side of the story is also something sometimes we overlook. We just think of him as a big-time player at UNLV, but this is really a personal dream come true also for Larry Johnson.
Bob, I had an opportunity 2 years ago to go to UNLV practices and watch this team prepare. Larry Johnson's a kid that comes to work and play every day. And I think that UB knows, being a former coach, you'd like to be able to hang your hat on a guy that's going to give you 82 good nights a year, not 40 or 41.
7, 6, 5. DeBusschere shoots. Hit with 3 seconds to go. 2 seconds. 1 second. West throws it up. He makes it. West threw it up and makes it over half court. The ball game is tied. Jerry West made it from the other side of the midcourt stripe. Now the final
second of play here in the Boston Garden. Boston up by 2. Won't start until it's clutched. They'll have to throw it up. Garherd, turnaround, shot in the air. It's good. It's tied again. I don't believe it. Garfield Hurd at the buzzer. We've got a third overtime in a Boston Garden. I got to take a breather. Garfield Hurd made the basket. I want to tell you something. Somebody up there is on our side.
And Gundy calls a play a triangle. That usually means something for Ewing. Out in Houston. Houston ducks under. Got it! With 8 left. You get a look at the clock as the ball is going up. There's 2. The ball dancing around. Comes down. This time Allen Houston is legit. He is the hero on a tough day. He seals the deal with 0.8 of a second left.
Here comes Avery Johnson. A title's at stake. Spurs are closing in. He wants Duncan. Got it on the entry pass. Double team. Elliott on top. Elliott bluffs, drives, kicks. Avery Johnson in the lead. Yes. Avery Johnson drills it from the baseline, and the Spurs have regained the lead.
The little guy sticks that dagger right toward your heart on every occasion.
The San Antonio Spurs win their first ever NBA championship.
Watching you in the green room and the anticipation, looks like you're pretty relieved.
Very relieved. It was a pretty good wait, and I had a pretty good time, and the players was back confident in me, and I just like to thank God and my family and the players that I play with.
You're the player of the year in high school, the player of the year in junior college, the player of the year NCAA. Makes it all sound easy, but it must have been a lot of hard work, especially coming from South Dallas.
Yes, it was real hard work, but I had some great guidance along the way. My family, my mother, the coaches I had, and I just had a great time. And it's been fun. It's been a pretty tough struggle, but I made it.
So what are you going to do for the Charlotte Hornets?
Well, I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna basically offer the Charlotte Hornets that I offered, the previous teams I played on. Hard work. I'm going in doing whatever the coach asked me to do, whatever my teammates need me to do, and just try to win.
Well, congratulations. Also, congratulations to Alan Bristow because he got the man he wants.
Okay, and now Charlotte. Alan Bristow is standing by at the Charlotte Coliseum, where there was a big cheer went up when Larry Johnson was the #1 selection. And Alan, thank you for joining us. Tell us your thinking, your organization thinking on making the selection of Larry Johnson.
Well, certainly it's been a terrific month, and with the selection of Larry Johnson, we feel like we've got a quality player, but a very competitive, tough guy, which we felt was a difference in probably the rest of the players that we brought in.
Alan, when I talked to you on the phone the other day, you told me with that first pick you wanted to draft a stinger. Well, tell me what a stinger is in your estimation.
Larry Johnson is a stinger, Doug. He's the kind of player that he along with, say, Kendall Gill or Rex Chapman, J.R. Reed, some of the young players that we have, we feel like that Larry Johnson is going to fit right in, and we're going to mold our team around our young players, and certainly Larry Johnson is going to be a big part of that.
Okay, Alan Bristow, a question from me. There's been stories in the press prior to this #1 selection about whether or not you or Gene Littles really agreed on Billy Owens, Larry Johnson, Dikembe Mutombo. Set us straight on what your organization thinking was and the unification of your organization on this #1 pick.
Well, we all felt that all the candidates were very good players. Certainly, we'd all like to be united in one, and we feel like we are now, and that Larry Johnson's going to demonstrate in a Hornet uniform that he is going to be the best player in this draft.
Congratulations to you, Alan Bristow. We hope to talk to you a little bit later in the draft. I know the folks are excited there in Charlotte, and we'll be chatting with you a little bit later. Alan Bristow, the general manager of the Charlotte Hornets. New Jersey is up next. And Hubie Brown, this is an interesting selection also, what New Jersey is going to do. They also have not been totally unified on who to select.
Well, in the newspapers, upper management wants Kenny Anderson. The coaching staff came out in the papers and said that if Larry Johnson was taken, they're definitely interested in Billy Owens. They went in a caucus yesterday. So it'll be interesting to see which way they go today. This is a basketball team that has great shot blocking, very, very good rebounding, a lot of young horses up in that front line. And now, do you take an Owens and play him at small forward and second guard and go with an all-young club? Or do you take a Kenny Anderson, a penetrator creator, because one of your minuses is your low field goal percentage. and a creator off the dribble can make everybody else's game a lot easier.
This is going to make the draft go very interestingly here for Sacramento, and as it goes down, Sacramento wants Kenny Anderson. They're hoping New Jersey will take Billy Owens, but will it be Anderson or Owens? The New Jersey press, the New York press, this whole area very much has been pointing toward Kenny Anderson because he's a local product off the playgrounds of New York City. 2 years at Georgia Tech, a great rookie year, a bit of a slump last year. Of course, he had a heavy load to carry. Let's see who New Jersey selects. Here's David Stern.
With the second pick in the 1991 NBA draft, the New Jersey Nets select Kenny Anderson from Georgia Tech.
Oh my, Kenny Anderson, the local product from New York City, will stay. As a matter of fact, he was in the old neighborhood just yesterday with friends. And one of the friends, someone who just saw him in the neighborhood, rolled the window of the car down and said, "Kenny, stay at home." And he said, "Not up to me." Well, the New Jersey Nets have made it, Jets, a good word here. This is a tremendous, a lot of people think that this is a point guard, and Hubie Brown, I know you know him very well, a point guard in the mold of Isaiah Thomas. That's a heavy burden to place on this young man who's only coming out of his sophomore year.
Well, especially the fact that he's slight in size. But the greatest evaluator of high school talent in America is a guy by the name of Harry Garfinkel. And he came out and stated when he was in high school, he's the greatest guard in the history of New York City basketball. Just think of the great ones who have played here in this area. And then for the people to be able to see him now, you know, throughout his entire career. It's a real shot in the arm for basketball in this area.
Well, I think you see some happy family members there. He's going to be close to home. You know, I think the great thing about Kenny Anderson, he showed in his freshman year, is that he's actually a better player when he's got better players around him. And I think that that's the way you evaluate him. Last year, he shot 43% when he was asked to take all the shots. When he had Dennis Scott, when he had Brian Oliver, they went to the Final Four and played such great basketball. And I think this is a guy, when you look at the NBA today, UB, and the way the game is played, you must have a great point guard to get to the top level in the NBA, to get to where you want to go, to be a champion. And I think this kid has all the ingredients to take them there.
Well, I'll tell you what, Petrovic is over playing in the World Tournament right now. I know he's happy because that guy, all he'll have to do is spot up as the off guard at New Jersey. It'll be like shooting fish in a barrel.
Oh, he helped make Dennis Scott a rich man, of course, as Dennis Scott was selected in the draft last year as an underclassman, went to Orlando. He played at Georgia Tech with Kenny Anderson. So Kenny Anderson is selected by New Jersey. He'll stay at home to play his professional basketball. And now here's the personal look with Kenny Anderson and Craig Sager.
Well, thanks, Bob. They say if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. You've been a pro for 5 minutes and already got a standing ovation here in the Garden. Congratulations.
Thanks a lot, Craig. It feels great, you know, to get this, you know, over with. I was a little anxious sitting there, and you know, I'm playing back home in New Jersey.
Last night you went over to Rego Park, I believe, and said goodbye. One final look before turning pro. Kind of emotional. Now you have to go back and tell them you're staying.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I never, you know, I'm just honored, you know, that New Jersey has so much confidence in picking me. They had a tough decision, you know, with me and Billy Owens, and they chose me, and it's just a great feeling.
When you left Georgia Tech early, an emotional decision, you were even crying at the press conference, so was your mother. Now we see Joan here moments ago. Tears of joy.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's one of the reasons, you know, not a big part of the reason, but one of the reasons I, you know, decided to leave school early to take care of my mother, my family, and it's just something, you know, that I'm excited about.
Well, her boy stays at home. I know she's awfully happy. Congratulations. Congratulations, too, to the Nets. Back to you, Bob.
So Kenny Anderson, the second player selected in the 1991 draft. Larry Johnson went to Charlotte. Kenny Anderson to New Jersey. Sacramento only moments away from making their selection. Sacramento very strong up front. Now they're looking at some forwards. What will they do? We'll find out when we return to the 1991 NBA draft.
It was a 10-point Spurs lead. Barkley picks and rolls and scores. Robinson on Barkley. It's his game to win, or we go to overtime. Barkley, 20-footer, yes! Charles Barkley with an MVP jump shot. the Suns have won the Western Conference semifinal 4-2. Thomas wants to get it in quickly.
And now there's a steal by Bird. Underneath the DJ, lays it in. Right up 1 second left. What a play by Bird. Bird stole the inbounding pass. Laid it up to DJ. DJ laid it up and in. And Boston has a 1-point lead with 1 second left. Oh my, this place is going crazy.
Bird now cuts free.
It's a duel. Put down your saber.
Wilkins responds. It's Bird's turn. Comes up with a shot. And the Celtics lead it.
Who's going to blink first?
And Dominique high off the glass. Johnson gets it into Bird, and Wilkins is there. Bird comes free. You are watching what greatness is all about.
And this series has come to this. It would be excruciating and devastating to the team that loses this game.
Rockets need a field goal desperately here.
48 seconds left. The Rockets down by 2.
It has come down to this.
Elijah Watts spins inside on Ewing. Picks it up back to Gasol.
There's Gasol for 3.
He got it. The rookie hit it.
Wow, big shot by Cassell.
What poise by the rookie out of Florida State.
The NBA draft from Madison Square Garden in New York City. Next up, the Sacramento team that was hoping to get Kenny Anderson. Sacramento said they really needed a point guard. They're very strong up front, and most people think the third best player is Billy Owens. You're looking at the people who are making the choice and talking with the management of Sacramento out on the West Coast, and they're about ready to make their selection in the draft. And we mentioned that Sacramento's strong up front. Let's see what they do now. Here's David Stern.
With the 3rd pick in the 1991 NBA draft, the Sacramento Kings select Billy Owens from Syracuse University.
Billy Owens goes to Sacramento. He's officially 6'7" in his stocking feet, 222 pounds. Went to Carlisle, Pennsylvania high school. He says his quote, "My strength is I can put the ball on the floor." He's a great talent. As a matter of fact, most people feel he can play 4 positions.
Well, I think that the fact that he is a versatile player makes him attractive to Sacramento, because when you look at Lionel Simmons and Tisdale and Carr and Bonner and Coswell and Winnington and Lechner and Sampson, that's the front line people they now have. Will they be able to slide Billy Owens or Lionel Simmons into the backcourt, playing both together as a 2-3? I think to do that, they're going to have a very strong ball handler.
Yeah, but I feel that his ball handling ability, Billy Owens, he can play that 2-guard position and then also give you a strong backup at small forward. He handles the ball extremely well. A real winner at the high school level in Pennsylvania, did an outstanding job at Syracuse, and he can do it all. Plus, in Dick Motta's style of play, you can post him up as that second guard and then improve your rebounding, which they are the worst team in the league in rebounding. So you're not only going to get a guard that can board for you, but also hit the offensive boards.
Yubi, I think a question is, can Travis Mays slide over and play any point guard for them? Because right now they still have a big need for a point guard to run that ball club.
Well, they also have a surplus of guys who can score up front in regards with Tisdale and Carr. So we could possibly see some trades after this draft.
That's what we talked about, the contingency thing. Now we see guys slotted with certain teams. Now we know strengths and weaknesses, and now they maybe can go out and get a veteran point guard.
Craig Sager is now with Billy Owens, the 3rd player selected in the draft.
Sacramento instead of New Jersey.
Well, not really surprised. You know, there's been a lot of talk that Kenny might go before me. You know, I'm just happy for everybody in the draft that had this opportunity to, you know, be in this situation.
Jim Boeheim had you playing 4 different positions, sometimes 5 in college. It looks like your versatility is going to pay off because Sacramento's strength is at the forward. Can you play the 2-guard?
Yeah, I can play the 2-guard. Whatever the coach wants me to play, I'll go out there and play. I was brought up to dribble the ball, shoot the ball, rebound. My dad had me doing everything, so wherever he wants me to play, I will play.
Now your brother Michael, running back with the Kansas City Chiefs, he went out there, got cut. Now he's coming back. Has he told you anything about making the adjustment from the college ranks to the pros?
He said you just got to get ready because it's all business. It's not a game. You got going to camp ready to go.
And you will be ready?
I'll definitely be ready.
Okay, congratulations, Bob.
Thank you, Craig Sager. Now, next up to make a selection will be Denver. Denver all along has said, they made no secret that they need a center, and that they have even talked about perhaps trading a center with somebody, Blair Rasmussen. So as we look at Denver's representative talking on the phone back to the Nuggets management, the Denver Nuggets, the worst record in the NBA last year, only 20 wins.
Well, I think when you look at Denver drafting 4, I think they're going to go with Mutombo at 4, which I think is going to open up them to trade Rasmussen to Atlanta for the 15th pick. So I think they're going to they should get 3 very solid players out of this draft. So this could be a rebuilding year for Denver. They could get healthy real quickly in the next 2-3 years.
Do you agree, Hubie, that most probably Mutombo the next man?
I like him, and I like his talent. He's a definite on the upside. I know he's 25 years old, but he has not played the game for a great period of time. He's an outstanding shot blocker, a great rebounder, and he is an intimidator. It's the ones that, you know, he changes the flight of, or that you fail to take inside of 10 feet. Now, if they are still going to play that style of basketball in Denver of up and down, you need that shot blocker. That was something that they did not have before. So consequently, they were, all right, if you think about it, teams shot over 50%. They were the only team in the league that was that poor defensively in shooting percentage against. So to me, he would be the logical choice to pick in this position.
Dikembe Mutombo, Marty Blake said, I think he's so good that if I'm Charlotte, I would have given a strong look at him even as the overall #1 player in the draft. So Denver's up now here at number 4. Denver's strength, well, not many with 20. I'd say their strength are their nice altitude, access to ski areas, but not a lot of strength as a basketball team. And Dikembe Mutombo, by the way, from Zaire, we said speaks 5 languages. And in an interview at the Chicago camp, Mutombo said he feels as though he has more inside offensive skills than he showed at Georgetown, and that he feels he can score there. He was a low 60s percentage field goal shooter, meaning, of course, he scored a lot on offensive rebounds.
You know, Bob, there's been so much said that, you know, the dominating center is not needed now to get to the NBA Finals and all. But I think that you talk to every general manager in the league, and they're going to talk about you anchor the middle of your defense night in and night out with your shot blocking, change shots, rebounding, and this guy will do that for you. So maybe offensively, he's not going to be a guy that's going to give you 25 points a game. But defensively, if he can bring your field goal percentage down to 47% and get you 12, 14 points, he is now adding 30, 35 points to your game simply from what he gives you defensively.
Okay, now just in case they don't select Mutombo, even though we think it'll be Doug Smith, the very state 4 in being the Super 6, as a lot of people think, who will be the top 6 there someplace. So pick number 50.
A lot of speculation. He might go to Charlotte for Rex Chapman. Then you could have Augmon and Larry Johnson together as your front court. Or possibly Del Curry and Kenny Gaddison have been mentioned as a possible trade. A lot of speculation. If he stays in Atlanta, you'd be with all the 3 men there, with all the small forwards, and their need for a shooter. How does this fit into the Atlanta Hawks plan?
Well, we look there, we say they need the outside shooting. What they do not need is, you already have Dominique Wilkins. Alexander Volkov will be back next year off the double wrist operations. They also have Dwayne Farrell, who had an outstanding season for them. So if they do take Augmon in this position, then it will possibly see a trade. Now you look at their backcourt. By moving off Rivers, you're saying Webb and Ramil Robinson will do it on the point, Battle and Moncrief at that second guard position.
All right, let's find out what the Hawks are going to do. Here's David Stern.
With the 9th pick of the 1991 NBA draft, the Atlanta Hawks select Stacey Augmon from the University of Nevada at Las Vegas.
Well, there you go. And as we talked before, Stacey Augmon may only be an Atlanta Hawk for a short amount of time. Of course, we always need to bring up here that when you draft a player of Stacey Augmon's abilities, and they are very strong, he's a 6'8", 200-pound quick forward. He plays some pretty good defense too. What that also gives the Hawks is an opportunity to not only necessarily maybe trade Augmon, but maybe one of the other forwards.
It opens up a lot of things, and the reason he's an unpopular choice right now in New York is because the Knicks fans were hoping that he would be there available for New York, and I know that
number 12.
There was a lot of things that New York was trying to do, maybe with Orlando, maybe to switch 10 and 12 to get Stacey Augmon at 10. Orlando feeling they could still get their guy at 12. So this, I think, really upsets the apple cart, so to speak, here in New York.
Now, to set up Stacey Augmon for you a little bit, if you're not completely familiar and don't remember his play at UNLV, a lot of people say he is a Dennis Rodman type forward defender, strong on defense, maybe a little bit better offensive threat than Dennis Rodman is, but certainly that type, maybe Rodman a little tougher, Augmon a little more balanced. Would you agree with that, Hubie?
Yeah, well, what has happened over the past year, he has improved his outside shot. So facing the basket, he is not only now a finisher on the fast break and a slasher off the dribble, but now he has added the perimeter game. And in NBA basketball, that's true. He does not have the weight, and he does not have that upper body strength or size of a Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman is 6'9" and legitimate.
Perhaps maybe a little bit more in a Michael Cooper mold, if you wanted to think of him like that.
I think when you look at him, he's an opportunity to go in and play defensively as a 2 and as a 3. His three-point range in college this year shot 47% from the three-point line, so he has improved his shot. The one thing you know you're going to get from him is he's going to come out and he's going to run the floor, he's going to defend. And again, you know, you coached, and I had an opportunity to coach. You can't say enough about taking a young man who's been in a winning program, because you take guys who were losing in college, and it's very difficult to bring them in and expect them to help turn around a team that's losing in the NBA.
Well, anytime that you select losing players or take a player who has played on losing teams, you always must be conscious of the fact that they establish stats because they get plenty of shots, plenty of minutes, and they're the main guy. But then what happens, they come to a team that's a bona fide ball club, they cannot accept their role. That's your big problem when that happens.
Let's meet Stacey Augmon now with Craig Sagan.
Well, thank you, Bob. Stacey, your biggest hug was from Larry Johnson, your former teammate who's now with Charlotte, yet we're hearing rumors you may go to Charlotte. Where do you want to play?
I'm happy right here in Atlanta, you know. I'm happy. Even I'm happy for Larry, for him, you know, whatever he does. I mean, it doesn't matter where I'm at, but I'm happy in Atlanta right now.
Some speculation a year ago you're going to come out early. You stayed for your senior year. Why and what did you learn after staying for that extra season?
Well, I stayed because, you know, we all decided at one time that we all want to come home and we all want to be together at one time. You know, we all want to get our degree, and we stuck together. We stuck with Coach Tart, you know, which we really think fond of. It was great experience. We had a great senior year.
Well, 2 UNLV players have gone early, and there may be more. Bob?
If 3 go in the top 10 or top 12, it would be the first time in the history of the NBA that 3 players from the same team. Greg Anthony, of course, a point guard, an opportunity there to go also. Ackles even may go in the first round. So let's find out now what's going to happen with the next team. That will be Orlando. And Orlando, an interesting choice, and we're just moments away from that selection.
Well, you can pencil in Brian Williams. They're going to go big, a big active forward who can run, maybe block some shots, get out and score a little bit for him. But I know the Orlando people very well, and I know that Matt Guokas and those people will go with Brian Williams.
And well, there you have it. We may as well just skip this and go ahead and talk about it. Actually, Brian Williams, a player who can score from Arizona, will join a team that's already very good at scoring. Orlando, an exciting young expansion team. Let's find out. Well, let's put the stamp on it now. Here's David Stern.
With the 10th pick in the 1991 NBA draft, the Orlando Magic selects Brian Williams from the University of Arizona.
Brian Williams, 6'9½", 240 pounds, played his high school basketball at Santa Monica, California. He's 22 years old, and his father, as you pointed out to me today, Doug Collins, is also famous, former member of the Platters.
Well, you know, I think this young man has a lot of potential. That potential sometimes can be a curse, and he really never, night in and night out, has met his true ability. He had a good year this year at Arizona, but I think that the big question on him is, can he do it 82 times a year? Can he strap it up 82 times a year and get in and battle around the paint with the guys that he's going to be banging heads with night in and night out?
And remember, he is also an undergraduate entering the draft.
Right. Well, you know, he started out at Maryland, and he was successful early. What you must see from him is consistency. He has a very soft shot, a low power game, plays with a great deal of emotion.
Brian Williams, the selection from the University of Arizona to Orlando. The Cleveland Cavaliers are at the 11th spot, and Cleveland will be selecting next from New York City at Madison Square Garden.
AIDS is devastating children and young people's lives around the world.
Millions are losing their parents, teachers, brothers, and sisters.
They need medicine, food, education, and protection.
UNICEF works in over 150 countries
to stop the devastation of AIDS.
We can create a better future.
Unite for children, unite against AIDS.
What else can you say?
What a play! Big shot! Oh my goodness!
The crowd is going wild!
If this isn't the best game in league history, it's up there. Holy smokes!
This is what the WNBA is all about. Unbelievable!
The 1991 NBA Draft is presented by Miller Genuine Draft. And let's go right away to Craig Sager and Brian Williams.
Well, instead of being a senior at Arizona, you're a rookie in Orlando. I know you're glad to be in the warm weather. You're starting the roster. What's your opinion of going to the Magic?
You know, I have a really good feeling about the Orlando Magic because I had a chance to go down there and work out with the team and meet with the staff and the management and the owners. And, you know, they're really good people and a good bunch of guys they're playing with. And, you know, they look like they have a focus and direction. So they're on their way up. They're on their way up, and I'm glad to be a part of that.
Well, you've been on the stage since you're old enough to walk, peeking through the curtains at your father, Gene, during the concerts for the Platters. What did he teach you about handling fame?
Keep it in perspective. You know, people look up to you for something that they normally can't do, or, you know, and to, you know, realize it's a gift and you make the most of it. And if other people can appreciate you for that, then it's a plus. But, you know, this is a great feeling.
Well, for him, it's a dream come true. The one and only you. My apologies for it, but congratulations.
All right, thank you very much.
Bob.
The one and only you. That was only done as Craig Sager can do it. As you look at the crawl on the screen, you're seeing who the top draft choice has been so far as we continue our live coverage of the 1991 NBA Draft from New York City. And next up at the number 11 spot, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Strong up front, question mark with Mark Price. He had a severe knee injury. Will he be back? And I don't think the Cleveland Cavaliers have ever been the same running the court since they got rid of Ron Harper.
Well, you know, I think that when you look at Cleveland, they're worried about Mark Price's health. Do they draft Greg Anthony, who's a defender, who pushes the ball up the floor, who gives you some speed and quickness? Do they go with a Terrell Brandon, who can give you speed and quickness but can also score and can shoot the basketball? Or do they go with a Rodney Monroe, who's a shooter? I think right now they might go with Brandon.
Let's find out. Here's David Stern. He's not ready yet, so we won't go to him until the commissioner is ready, because after all, he is the commissioner of the NBA and making the announcements here in the first round. So Brandon, Anthony, a guard, what our experts here are thinking will probably be the choice of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And now here's David Stern.
With the 11th pick in the 1991 NBA Draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers select Terrell Brandon from the University of Oregon.
Terrell Brandon came out early. He's another one of the early entries, a junior. And he's 5'11", 185 pounds. He is a point guard, had a terrific year his final year. More of a scoring guard in the mind of Marty Blake than of a point guard, but has some #1 skills. And he is the player, Hubie Brown, who's been selected by the Cleveland Cavaliers.
See, Cleveland, they have an awful lot of established people at the center position and big forward. And they needed the perimeter game. They would like to bring Craig Elo off the bench as the spark. That meant that there were a lot of pressure last year on Patio and Morton to deliver, and no one could do it on a consistent basis. This young man is going to get a big shot, whether they play him ahead of Valentine or behind Valentine, or if Price is back, then he could even move over to the second guard position, but you would be rather small because he's only 5'11". He has a strong body at 186 pounds. He has range, and he lit it up big out there in the Pac-10, a real proven scorer.
Well, we know, excuse me, Bob, but you know the one thing that you have to have when you have a low post game is you have to have perimeter shooting. And when Mark Price went down, you did not have to guard Cleveland on the perimeter. They could not score. This kid will give them spacing on the floor to allow Nance, Hot Rod Williams, Brad Daugherty now to establish the low post game that they had when they won 57 ball games.
Well, Lenny likes to play that medium pace type of a tempo there at Cleveland. And everything functions on you being able to knock in that 20 to 20 foot jump shot, 20 to 21 foot shot. If not, if you have 3-point range, now you are a major asset. This young man is blessed with great perimeter shooting ability.
Terrell Brandon, a junior undergraduate, early entry selected by the Cleveland Cavaliers. He grew up in Portland, Oregon, and let's go right away to, you're going to hear the crowd go crazy here in a moment, because next up will be the New York Knicks. The Knicks will be making a selection, and what are the Knicks going to do? Stacey Augmon, one of the players that they really like, already has gone to Atlanta. Of course, Pat Riley, the new New York Knicks coach. Knicks in need of a lot of help. What is about your analysis of what they need?
I think they're going to draft Greg Anthony. I think that even though they have Mark Jackson and Maurice Cheeks, I think they'll get speed, quickness. They've got to upgrade the speed and quickness on their ball club. They'd like a quality 3 if possible. There's not one there for them. So I think they're going to go Greg Anthony. I think they're going to be very pleased with that.
Also, at this time, there is a feeling in around the city, people saying they should take a strong look at King, the 7-footer from Nebraska, because of size, the ability to rebound, and also play well in the low post with an awful lot of potential. But the Knicks need the quickness at the point guard position, and especially at that small forward position. As Kiki Vandeweghe is getting up in age, they could bring him off the bench, because Kiki has the injuries every so often.
Okay, let's go to Craig Sager now and talk to Terrell Brandon, who's just been selected by the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Okay, Bob, we were at the University of Oregon last weekend to do a track meet. A lot of people disappointed you gave up your senior season. Was that a tough decision?
Well, I knew what I wanted to do. I thought that I could do all I could at University of Oregon, and I looked out for myself and what my family. And I had great years at Oregon, but I felt it was time for me to move on, and I'm very happy with my decision.
Speaking of your family, I saw your father Charles, but where's your mom? She's always following you everywhere.
Well, she's at home at the job point right now. I can say I love you, Mom, and I'll give you a call in a couple hours.
Well, I know Portland sold out every game for, I don't know, like 15 straight years, but there's now going to be a Cleveland Cavalier fan club in Portland. Bob?
Terrell Brandon, who's the newest member of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Let's go back to the New York Knicks. They'll be selecting next. Doug, your feelings about beyond the guard position, what the Knicks need to do to get better. I mean, Pat Riley's got his hands full.
Well, to me, when you look at it, if you've got Patrick Ewing and you have Charles Oakley and you've got a Gerald Wilkins, a Trent Tucker, you have a nucleus for some pieces. But I felt that the one thing that New York just really caused them so many problems this year was their lack of speed and quickness. And if they draft a Greg Anthony and they can get below the salary cap by renouncing the rights to some of the players and get below the salary cap, now they have $1.7 million that they can count with Mark Jackson. If they can trade a Mark Jackson, then now you can open up some other avenues, maybe to get a quality small forward. So I think they've got a lot of things they're trying to do in the front office to get below the salary cap so they can make some moves. Right now, that's their biggest problem.
I might mention regarding that salary cap that this past year, the salary cap has been $11.871 million. It's going to go up somewhere to the neighborhood this year based on revenues that come into the league from the 90-91 season to around $12.6, $12.7 million. The salary cap means that's the payroll limit for a team. There are some exceptions because of deferred payrolls, because of grandfathering, because of varying rules. But the NBA general rule on the salary cap is you have more room to manipulate, more room to move around and maneuver if you're under the cap, and you see there aren't but just a few who are. And if you are over the cap, even though you make those exceptions, the NBA says we don't want you there, and so it's tougher for you to make a deal, tougher for you to sign your free agents. And the New York Knicks, along with the other teams, will have to take that into consideration. By the way, that salary cap decision will be made August 1st. That's why some of the deals that we talk about that didn't happen prior to the draft may happen even as late as August 1st. And the New York Knicks, now you see the fans here at Madison Square Garden already starting to get excited. Nearly 8,000 are in here. It is sold out. The tickets were free, but they were all given away. And we're going to find out now, and you'll hear the crowd cheering or booing, as they are wont to do here at Madison Square Garden, depending on their view of the Knicks draft choice. And here's David Stern.
With the 12th pick in the 1991 NBA draft, the New York Knicks select Greg Anthony from the University of Nevada at Las Vegas.
So for the first time in the history of the NBA draft, 3 players from one college team have gone in the top 12. Larry Johnson, Stacey Augmon, and now Greg Anthony. Greg Anthony is a 6 foot tall, 6 foot 1/2 inch guard. He is 183 pounds. Played high school basketball at Rancho in Las Vegas, Nevada. He's 23 years old and a well-rounded young man. Vice chairman of the Nevada Young Republicans, an aide at the World Economic Summit, a political science major, and a former congressional aide. I might see him being active in the NBA Players Association very quickly.
Now, this is a young man who has been surrounded with an awful lot of talent at UNLV, and he's had to keep a lot of guys happy out there. Anderson Hunt and Larry Johnson and Ackles and Stacey Augmon. And the one thing I think just remember about him is when he fouled out in the Final Four game against Duke, the team fell apart and they could not win a close basketball game. I think that talks to you a little bit about his leadership skills.
Great speed and quickness. Hubie Brown, your feeling about him coming to the New York Knicks?
Well, he's a total guard. He's solid. As his coach, Jerry Tarkanian, it's a big day for Jerry with 3 of his players going this high. Now, when you look at Anthony's game, he can run the break and he makes excellent decisions in the open floor. You must play him because he has range, and then he can beat you off the dribble and either score or deliver the pass.
Well, Greg Anthony also knows how to play to the crowd, as you saw him doing that, and now holding up the New York Knicks jacket as he joins the New York Knickerbockers. Pat Riley will be his head coach. He'll join Patrick Ewing.
Jefferson, great first step.
Incredible.
That was remarkable. He is smoking. In fuego. Buckfish, showtime. Chris Paul, what an electrifying talent. Oh, my!
Through NBA Cares, NBA players are able to make a lasting impact, whether we're building homes or playgrounds for kids and families, stressing the importance of education, or encouraging young people to lead an active, safe, and healthy lifestyle. Our goal is the same, to help strengthen and improve our communities. On behalf of the NBA and all of its players, I'm Kobe Bryant of the Los Angeles Lakers. The NBA, where caring happens.
Madison Square Garden, nearly 8,000 fans are here, along with representatives from all 27 of the NBA teams, a lot of the news media from around the country and literally around the world for the renewal of talent in the NBA out of the college ranks. Here's what's happened so far. Larry Johnson went to the Charlotte Hornets. The Nets threw a bit of a curveball to the Sacramento Kings by selecting hometown favorite Kenny Anderson. Billy Owens went to Sacramento. Dikembe Mutombo from Georgetown to the Nuggets. The defensive-oriented center, Steve Smith, the number 2 guard from Michigan State, to the Heat. Big Doug Smith from Missouri was the 6th player. Then Luke Longley from Australia to the Timberwolves. Mark Macon to the Nuggets. Stacey Augmon to the Hawks, who had traded up to that pick. Brian Williams to the Magic. Terrell Brandon to the Cavs. And Greg Anthony to the Knicks. And coming up next will be the Indiana Pacers. But right now, let's go to Craig Sager.
Well, thank you, Bob. The 3rd player from Nevada, Las Vegas to go in the top 12, Greg Anthony. A couple of years you're overshadowed maybe by your teammates. When did you realize this would be a goal for you, the NBA?
Well, first of all, it's not necessarily being overshadowed. I was just doing my job, which is to run the team. And when you have great players like Stacey Augmon, Larry Johnson, and Anderson Hunt, you just have to find your niche and your role, and that was to just make the team run and to play good defense. And also, I like to thank Coach Tarkanian a great deal because he taught me a great deal about basketball, and he gave me the opportunity to be a success in life, and I just owe him a great deal.
You mentioned some of your resume statistics, a real estate license, you have a degree in political science. You're a credit to all those that combine academics and athletics. You make your mom and grandmother proud. I know they both just had surgery. You've been the man of the house since your grandfather passed away. Anything you'd like to say to them?
Yeah, first of all, I want to tell my grandmother and my mother I love them dearly, and I miss them a great deal, and I want them to know that without them, this could never be possible. And also to all my friends and fans back in Las Vegas, you know, this is the greatest day of my life, and one of my dreams was always to be a New York Knick.
The bright lights of Vegas, the bright lights of New York.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, congratulations, Bob.
Greg Anthony, the selection of the New York Knicks, and I might tell you a popular one. No punches are pulled by this crowd. I was here in the early 80s when Trent Tucker was the Knicks' #1 draft choice, and they booed him for 5 minutes, even though he's proven to be a substantial NBA player. Now, the Indiana Pacers come up next. They are weak at the power forward spot. They're a good run and shoot team. They shoot the ball very well, and they have some pretty good depth. What about Indiana, and what do you think will happen? You be first.
Well, they need to improve their rebounding because they must become a better defensive team. The scoring is there, the perimeter game, the three-point shooting, but if they are going to move and get past that first round in the playoffs, they must have consistent board play and better interior defense. So we feel, Doug and I feel, that they will go with someone up front.
And you're pretty strong feelings
My
about who you
feeling
think
is
they'll go
Dale
with.
Davis. I think they're going to go with Dale Davis from Clemson. He's an excellent rebounder. You have to think now, remember, they've had Horace Grant at Clemson. They've had Eldon Campbell at Clemson. This is a young man who's been an outstanding rebounder. A lot of speculation that Indiana might want to trade LaSalle Thompson. And I really believe when you look at the Indiana Pacers and you look at what's happened to the Pistons and some of these teams in the Central Division, the Indiana Pacers might be the second best team in the Central Division behind the Chicago Bulls this upcoming year if they can shore up their defense and rebounding, as UB has talked about, because we know with Reggie Miller, Chuck Person, Detlef Schrempf, and a healthy Rick Smits that they can put points on the board.
I enjoyed what Eldon Campbell said about Dale Davis, if he's in fact the player chosen. He said, when I played with him at Clemson, whenever both of us had our hands on the ball, it always ended up in the hands of Dale Davis. Let's see if he goes to Indiana. Here's David Stern.
With the 13th pick in the 1991 NBA draft, the Indiana Pacers select Dale Davis from Clemson.
Well, I'm going to start getting Hubie and Doug Collins to be making predictions on the stock market, and we'll all retire pretty good if you can call this draft the way you have. Dale Davis from Clemson University, who I don't think is here with us tonight. Correct me if I'm wrong. He'll battle anybody for rebounds, a very, very strong player, but the NBA director of scouting, Marty Blake, says, Hubie Brown, that he is a raw talent.